Lawmakers raise objections to move by the United States to designate Nigeria as a country of particular concern. President Bola Tinubu seeks the approval of the National Assembly for $2.3 billion external borrowings. And later on the program, we would speak with the Chairman, House Committee on Electoral Matters, to get his views on President Bola Tinubu's nomination of a new INEC chairman. This is the Hallowed Chambers on TVC News. I am Tijesu Adiri. The Senate has resolved to hold an executive session to deliberate and put forward measures to correct what it describes as dangerous misconceptions about an alleged Christian genocide narrative being promoted within and outside Nigeria. Lawmakers say an ad hoc committee would also be constituted to engage with the United States Congress, international partners, and the Nigerian diaspora to clarify misconceptions about religious persecution in the country. The motion, sponsored by concerned lawmakers, sought to push back against what it described as false and dangerous claims being circulated across some international platforms, claims suggesting targeted religious persecution in Nigeria. The Nigerian Senate says it will take a cautious and diplomatic approach in addressing growing international misconceptions.
Nigeria is a multi-ethnic, multi-religious federation whose unity and stability depends on mutual respect, tolerance, and accurate representation of its national realities. Concerned about the increasing circulation, both domestically and internationally, of the narrative alleging an ongoing Christian genocide in Nigeria.
It is a surprise for us to hear a Congress like United States Congress, where all of us were frauding, to come up with this kind of bill, where most of Nigerians are very ignorant on the content and the intent of the bill.
We must come to terms to understand the strategy of the terrorists and their praxis. And I think, Mr. Senate President, there might be need for us to have a closed session because it's a security matter. So distillment of fundamental information that are very secret cannot be said here openly.
As a resolution on the basis of our discussion here, that will now step down further consideration of this motion, especially the prayers, till the next legislative day, which is Tuesday next week, when we can have our executive session, to discuss these prayers as well as other related matters.
Legislative actions should be postponed to Tuesday next week, when we can have executive sessions to have a comprehensive discussion so that we can come up with a proper strategy that will not only address the issues, but also clean the image of Nigeria so that we don't criminalize any particular section or any particular religion.
Still on the same matter, the House of Representatives has condemned the United States bill seeking to designate Nigeria as a country of particular concern over alleged persecution of Christians in the country. The parliament insists insecurity in the country is complex and multi-causal, driven by insurgency, criminal banditry, farmer herders conflict, and communal disputes affecting citizens of all faiths. Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu presented a motion on the need for a coordinated response to the controversial bill. He says the details of the bill are a gross misrepresentation of facts and an attempt to demarket Nigeria.
That external legislative action based on incomplete or decontextualized assessment risks undermining Nigeria's sovereignty.
For many of the children, many of the parents, even some legislators still look at Nigeria with the eyes of the 1950s and 60s.
It is a deliberate attempt to damage Nigeria's image, to cause problems in this country.
We must re-engineer our parliamentary diplomacy and pursue this matter through the parliamentary process of the U.S. system.
We must put in place the necessary machinery to fight a cause like this. I don't think Nigeria has an ambassador to the United States. As we speak, I don't believe Nigeria has a permanent representative to the United Nations.
President Bola Tinubu has sent a letter to both chambers of the National Assembly requesting approval for an external borrowing to finance the 2025 budget deficit. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is asking the Senate for approval to raise fresh external capital of about $2.3 billion to plug the 2025 budget deficit and refinance maturing debts. In a letter read at plenary, the President invoked Section 21 and 27 of the Debt Management Office Establishment Act, seeking legislative resolutions to implement new external borrowings already captured in the 2025 Appropriation Act.
Request for the resolution of the National Assembly to implement new external borrowings in the 2025 Appropriation Act to refinance maturing Eurobonds and to issue debut sovereign sukuk in the international capital market. The purpose of this letter is to seek a resolution of the Nigerian Senate pursuant to the provisions of Section 21, subsection 1 and 27, subsection 1 of the Debt Management Office Establishment, etc. Act 2003.
The President's request is contained in a letter addressed to the Speaker entitled Request for the Resolution of the National Assembly to implement new external borrowings in the 2025 Appropriation Act, refinance maturing Eurobonds, and issue debut sovereign sukuk in the international capital market. The letter was read by the Speaker, Abbas Tajuddin, at plenary. A breakdown of the proposed loan shows a new external borrowing of 1.84 trillion naira, equivalent to $1.22 billion at an exchange rate of $1 to 1,500 naira in the 2025 Appropriation Act for the part financing of the budget deficit.
The purpose of this letter is to seek a resolution of the House of Representatives pursuant to the provisions of Section 21, subsection 1 and Section 27, subsection 1 of the Debt Management Office Establishment Act 2003. The new external borrowing of $1,843,669,786 naira 98 kobo, which is equivalent to $1,229,113,000 at the budget exchange rate of $1 to 1,500 naira in the 2025 Appropriation Act for the part financing of the budget deficit.
We will take a quick break, and when we return, the Chairman, House Committee on Electoral Matters, will join us to speak on the appointment of the INEC Chairman. Thank you for staying with the Hallowed Chambers. Now, my guest today is an honorable member of the House of Representatives. His name is Honorable Bayo Balogun, and he is the chairman of the House Committee on Electoral Matters. It's good to have you on the program.
Good morning.
You're welcome. Well, Honorable, you are the chairman of the House Committee on Electoral Matters, and now a new INEC chairman has been nominated. From your own assessment, how would you react to this appointment? Would you say that he fits to handle this job, looking at his credentials and, past experiences in government issues? Do you think he fits this office?
Well, good morning once again. Like I said, this is the first time I'll be hearing about him. I really don't know him, but I think his CV speaks for him. he is a son of about 11 years now, and is a vice chancellor of University of Jos, and with other credentials he comes to the table with, I think is someone that we can really rely on. And but one important thing that I can say makes him fit, looking at the issues people have been talking about, especially the civil society, that we shouldn't bring in a non-politician, a partisan person, and I think he falls into this category. All the people that have been interviewed over the TV since yesterday, I actually didn't see anybody who can really say so much about any political activity he has been involved in. But one area too is that Alante has been a litigation lawyer on electoral matters. So that should even give him an advantage. At least he understands the problems, because issue of litigation has been a major problem in our electioneering process. So I think you have a lot of experience to bring on board.
Well, very soon he would be made to appear before the National Assembly for screening. And a lot of Nigerians have a lot of high expectations from this screening. We spoke to someone this morning and she was telling us that she would like it for it to be participatory. Public should also have an input in this screening. What should Nigerians expect from this screening process?
You see, when it talks about issues like this, it's not everything that we push out to the public. We talk about stakeholders, people who are supposed to know what to even ask of him. And there must be people who have experience about electoral matters. And I think the issue is confirmation is by the Senate. It's even not the whole of the National Assembly. And a CV is there talking for him. And if there is any issue a member of the public are aware of that they want to push, they can only push that to the National Assembly to aid the confirmation process. I think the public has always been involved, because I think about 2 commissioners have been dropped based on public opinion and outcry. So if there is anything anybody knows that we don't know, or Mr. President didn't know, I think this is an opportunity for them to push it out.
I think what Nigerians are actually asking for is a transparent process. Now, what they want, their involvement is maybe if that process is going to be transmitted live. So as it's happening, they see what is happening. They see the questions being asked. They see how it's being interrogated. Because you can't blame Nigerians for being very sensitive and, also interested in this matter. It's a quite sensitive one.
Well, I think most of our screening process, confirmation process have always been televised, and I think during during the cabinet screening too, most of them were actually televised. Some are even done live.
So is this one going
I think
to be?
Well, I can't speak for the Senate.
You are the chairman of the House.
No. It's the Senate that takes care of confirmation.
It's going to be done in the Senate.
Yes.
All right.
Confirmation.
Well, some people have also raised eyebrows about how this nomination is being selected. Some people said, why should it remain the prerogative of the president? Or should it be a broader bipartisan selection process?
You see, I think Mr. President did just wake up and just pick someone. The process might not be known to every one of us, and it's not even just one person's prerogative. It's with consultation with the Council of States or the former presidents. They're all there. It has to be presented, and I'm sure it won't start with one name before you get to this person. But I think the issue will be, is this man capable? The issue is every one of us looking at who is being presented. Even from his CV, can you see capacity? These are the issues we should be talking about now. Does he have the capacity to do this job? Like I said earlier, the only thing I know about him that got to do with electoral matters is being a litigation lawyer on electoral matters in both at the High Court and the Supreme Court. So this should be an advantage to him to understand the problems we are facing. Because many times people are saying, why are our elections being decided at the courts? How do we reduce the litigation period? What are the problems at the courts? Why are the courts bringing divergent judgments? So I think he should have experience in this area and will be able to assist us even in our own amendment of necessary laws to ensure that we have a very good electoral process.
Well, the incoming INEC chairman will definitely have his work cut out, and one of those tough tasks will be the steering, the implementation of the proposed electoral reforms, which is still currently before the National Assembly. And when it is passed, how do you expect this new chairman to handle affairs in an atmosphere that is already politically charged? Do you think that he can remain, maintain independence and, properly implement this electoral act?
Please, his job has been independent. The organization is called Independent National Electoral Commission. And everyone in that organization is expected to be independent. If you decide to do otherwise, I think that's your own problem. So it's not in any political environment. It's not coming to the National Assembly to work. He's not working in the party secretariat. He's supposed to work with every party. And let's give it to even the last chairman. He has done his best in ensuring that he has been fair to everybody. And if you look at the reform he has brought, even the last chairman, the beavers, introduction of the beavers has been the game changer in the electoral process, because the accreditation process is where the fraud had actually been. That's where you have a community, maybe a riverine area that doesn't have more than 100 people inhabiting in the place. And by the time they bring result of about 2,000, 3,000. But with the beavers, you can no longer vote if you are not there present. So that's a major game changer. And that's what I want Nigerians to appreciate. It's the major game changer. The issue of the results were transmitted real time or not real time. It is what you've written that you want to transmit. A lot of governors that could not make even their Senate come back. A lot of rep members that lost their seats because of these beavers. These are the people that will tell you that yes, the beavers is actually the game changer in our electoral process. So what we should be thinking about it now is, how do we fine-tune? What are the other shortcomings? Because, politicians will always look for ways. How do we ensure that they are not loopholes people can take advantage of? What are still the shortcomings, if there is any? Because we still believe that in some areas we have a situation where the beavers reading is lower than the total vote. How are people beating the system? Are they beating the beavers to go and vote without passing through the beavers? Because you would have bypassed the beavers to go and vote. It's either there is a connivance with the electoral officer. So we find out all those areas, and we are working on the report of the last election, and we see where we can ensure that we have a near perfect situation. But everywhere in the world, there's nowhere you can get a very perfect situation. Well, we're going to get a near perfect one. One
major question that Nigerians are asking is when these electoral reforms, the amendments are going to be passed, and if it's going to be done before the 2027 election, because, the implementation of these reforms is also a question. If the INEC chairman is going to effectively implement it to ensure that there is no hiccup before that election. Do you think that the National Assembly can deliver this document before 2027?
Oh, we are going to have our public hearing by next week, Monday. That's 13th. We'll have a program by 13th, and we have our retreat by 16th, between 16 and 19. And before the end of this month, I think we would have done the consideration and passing the bill at the House of Reps. So we expect by November, the president should have given his assent. So,
do you also support calls for creation of special courts to attend to these electoral matters? Since you're already speaking of, speeding up the litigation process before, these individuals are being sworn in.
Tribunals are already special courts. The issue is, do we want to increase the number of judges? Because most of the time they were drawn from the regular courts, because you cannot just create judges and justices just for electoral matters. Electoral matters will come and go. And I think what we're looking at is one, reduce the time. That might require increasing the number of judges. So we intend, by the time we conclude this amendment, have a discussion with the judiciary and look at how that could be done. Even some people are talking about probably, well, at the tribunal level, probably some retired judges can be brought in to support the serving judges, who might be the chairman and the retired being part of the members, if they don't have enough to ensure that because the issue is you cannot predict the number of litigations that will come up. You cannot predict, so we must be prepared. As far as we want to reduce the period, we must be able to get enough hand to ensure that they get this job done. And again, we also want to reduce these frivolous litigations, and we are going to set penalties for those who bring such cases. You know that you are bringing a case that has no ground, yet if you lose, you still go to appeal. Some goes up to the Supreme Court for cases that you know you can never win. So we are looking at, we're going to work with the judiciary, how do we ensure that such areas are removed without also preventing people from going to court when they need a redress.
So dwelling on this area of shortfalls, funding is another critical issue in planning elections. We need adequate, the commission needs to be adequately funded. Now, INEC has had this issue of funding, and you know it has negatively impacted on how elections are being done or conducted. How is the National Assembly intending to improve funding to the electoral body, and also ensuring that, you know, these monies are also released to them in good time?
Yeah, I think the issue is how do we pressure the executive to do their own part. It's already in the law. Fund for elections must be released at least a year before the election. That's why next year election and the next election and the budget must be in 2026, and the money must be released in 2026, so that they have enough time to do up their, and that's one of the areas that make them independent. If you don't need to go to the executive campaign hand when it's election period, because by the time you are going campaign hand when it's election to the executive, that means you might be influenced by during that process. So the law says the money must be released a year ahead of the election, and especially even the notice of the election too must be given a year ahead of the election, so that they have enough time to plan and also to ensure that they have their money ready. So the law is already there. It's for us to continue to talk to the executive to play their part. Although it's not only the funding of INEC that is suffering, many other areas too are suffering in ensuring that they get more money. So, but we continue to appeal to the executive.
All right. Some people are talking and they're asking whether the INEC chairman must always be a professor, because we've seen in time past it's always professors that are being elected. Now, is this a constitutional provision, or this is just some sort of unofficial tradition that we have maintained over the years?
It's just a matter of trying to look at the issue of integrity. We believe, well, people in the academia at least portray. So sometimes it's just about perception. Oh, professor this, professor that. It gives you some kind of confidence in them, although some of them have actually messed up. We saw what happened during the last election, with some wrecks and some other INEC stuff. And what we can also give to the last chairman is a prosecution of some of his own officials, which has never been in the past. If there's any case, he ensures that the law takes its full course. So being a professor is I just think it's something that, well, I don't think there's any law. There's no law that says you must be a professor. Well, it's just, I think it's just to satisfy the, well, I think it makes us look good, having a professor handing the INEC head, and not just being a professor this time around, professor of law, who understand the law. And you know, when it comes to INEC issue, it's more about litigations, about the law and the operation of the law. So I think it just gives you some kind of comfort that you can rely on this person.
All right. This new INEC chairman, some people say he was among the legal team of President Tinubu and part of the team that defended his victory, the litigation that, affirmed his presidency. And some people are saying that, don't you think that this will also somehow influence decisions in 2027? I
don't know where you had that from. The one I was hearing was part of Senator Dino Melaye's lawyers. That was the one I had. And when they said that, and I said, well, and Dino Melaye is PDP. So it's part of, if he had been part of Dino Melaye's lawyers. And I told the person, well, as a lawyer or a doctor, you are not a personal lawyer or a personal doctor to just one individual. You are practicing your trade, and everybody comes in. A PDP man comes in, a APC man comes in. You are not looking at the coloration of their party. Yours is to serve them, and they pay you your money. So what I had was a PDP lawyer. So not I've never known him to be part of Mr. President's legal team. But if Mr. President saw him after working with any PDP candidate and still felt, what I'm interested in is your quality, not the people we have worked with in the past. So I think this shows that we have a president that is ready to take on anybody that he feels has a capacity.
That is all on the program today. We are glad you could be a part of it. Join us again next week for a fresh episode of the program as we update you on news and happenings in the National Assembly. Thank you for watching. I am Tijesu Adeoye. See you next time.